I'm in a band, so I use the internet all the time just to promote it. So, for example, we have to have a website. So I didn't really know anything about the internet, but I absolutely have to. So we've got a website, and from there it links to things like Twitter and Facebook and other social media. And then every time we have a gig coming up, we use it as a promotional tool. We can send out newsletters via email to people that sign up to the website and let them know what we're doing. And then when we're actually in the process of a gig, we'll, put photos online, post quotes talking about what we're doing so people can see it. And then it usually leads, from one to the next person to the next person. They share it on their wall, for example, or they'll post the photo. And it just means you can reach a massive amount of people rather than, old-fashioned way of just showing somebody a photo after the event. That's no good. So the internet's amazing for that. You can just reach thousands really quickly, which is exactly our goal.
Speaker 2.
So I have a food blog where I review restaurants and post up my reviews onto this blog just as a hobby. It's something I really enjoy doing, but it means I take a lot of photos of food. Anything I eat, I take a photo of it. So for me, using Instagram, which is social media for uploading photos, is the perfect sort of tool for advertising my blog, as it's free and people love looking through pictures of all the different dishes. So I find that I've got about over 2,000 followers just from people wanting to look at photos of a steak or a piece of chicken, which sounds crazy, but it's very popular. So I use Instagram a lot to link up with my blog.
Fantastic.
Speaker 3. Well, I use Facebook mainly because I work from home and I don't really chat to people much during the day. So it's a good way of staying in touch with people. It's it's an online community, isn't it? And I like to keep in touch with people that way. Old friends. Probably one of the best uses though is organising parties and things, because you can just do one blanket invitation to everyone. Most people usually get a notification in their email account to say they've been invited to something, don't they?
Right, yeah.
So I think it's really handy. Rather than ringing up loads of people, you can do it all through social media rather than making lots of phone calls. But probably what I like most about it is just seeing people's family photographs. People are always posting their pictures of their children or parties or friends, and it's just nice to see those and keep in touch with people.
So Sharon, imagine you had to start a brand new community.
Yes.
I know it's a difficult question, but ideally, where would it be?
I'd probably choose somewhere quite warm. So you didn't have any issues of flooding or, too much snow to deal with, something like that. And then I choose another place than most people would probably choose, not an island.
Where exactly?
I think, somewhere in France. I don't know why.
Oh, somewhere in France.
Liked it.
Okay.
And
who would be there? The French only, or a mixture of people?
No, it would need to be a mix of people, and they'd need to be able to help one another.
In what way?
Well, I'd like to take one person who's an expert in one field, another person who's an expert in another field. So you have, arty people, manually skilled people, good orators, good writers.
So a whole range of skills.
Exactly.
All going into the melting pot.
Yes, but I wouldn't have too many people to start with, although if it's too small a group, then I suppose you risk falling out. But I think if you keep that group fairly small to begin with, then you can draw up your own special laws, to govern yourselves.
Would it need laws, do you think, this utopian society?
Well, ideally there'd be no laws, but because people are human, I think you would probably have to still come up with some ground rules, yes.
What would be the most important one?
I think not to physically hurt somebody else, I suppose.
Right, so pretty much like we have at the minute.
Yes, I suppose. Well,
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s. For me, film and music are two important aspects of my life, and it was a fantastic decade for both of those. In terms of films, there were some excellent ones that came out. My favourites being Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption. In terms of the music, probably the most famous bands of the time was Oasis and Blur. One of the most memorable moments for me of the 90s was Euro 96, obviously the football tournaments. I was lucky enough to go to the opening ceremony myself. Obviously, as we was entering the end of the millennium, the celebrations towards the end of the 90s were huge, as were the actual celebrations on the night. Tony Blair was elected, so it was the first sort of Labour government for a long time. And also Mother Teresa died. Mother Teresa was the famous charitable missionary.
2. Are the 70s? Well, they were wonderful, I think. If I'm asked, was it a good decade or a bad decade? Personally, I have to think it was a good decade to grow up in. I think it's very lucky. I think of it as a very lucky experience when generally the world that I lived in, which was London and England, which was the post-war period and therefore an era of a certain amount of restriction, was all ending and things were freeing up. And that happened just at the time that I was leaving home and finding my own independence. It all seemed as though it happened at the same time. Technology was changing and improving. Everything seemed to be developing and getting better in many ways. The fashion was getting rid of short hair and regimented kind of looks. Individuality was very much the order of the day. Great people were emerging in the arts. John Lennon, for example, was an icon for me, I think, as a creative artist with a message as well in his work. Great artists in film, Scorsese, Taxi Driver, Spielberg, Duel. These were emerging artists of tremendous skill and artistry, but they were just starting out then when I was. 3.
I was a teenager in the 80s and I remember thinking that I didn't like a lot of the fashion and the music from back then, but now it's obvious in retrospect that I did quite like it. I love looking back on like a nostalgia trip at the way we used to dress and how much hair gel I used and how much hairspray the girls used. And now in the 2000s, there's like a sort of a trip back into that time. Girls are wearing big earrings again and geometric patterns on their clothes. The music in the 80s became quite computerised sounding, quite electronic, and disco faded away. Although we did still have soul, there were people like Luther Vandross and Billy Ocean making soul music. New Romantic was another style that came out in the early 80s where the men started wearing lots of makeup and had big shoulders and small waists. And there was Madonna, was a big trendsetter for girls. And at one point she cut her hair really short in the mid-80s and almost like a boy's. And then all the girls started cutting their hair short too. I wasn't very fashionable myself. I used to spend most of my money on records, not clothes. There were some good films around in the 80s too, things like Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox, Desperately Seeking Susan with Madonna, E.T., Police Academy. I'm going to be 40 this year, and I reckon my birthday party is probably going to be a big nostalgia trip back to the 80s.
Okay, well, someone whose work really influenced me is Gabriel García Márquez. I like his short stories, but I fell in love with his novels, particularly 100 Years of Solitude. That book really made its mark on me. Anyway, Márquez is a Colombian writer. I think he was born in 1928. He's a Nobel Prize winner. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature, and his books have been translated into dozens of languages. He's one of the best-known writers in the style of what's called magic realism. This means he writes kind of realistically, but there's magic. I mean, magical things happen in his books, like ghosts appear and kind of crazy things happen. I'm a big fan of that type of writing. Anyway, his novels are kind of funny, but it's black humour or satire. He invents all these amazing, unforgettable characters like corrupt officials and devoted lovers, vicious policemen and stupid revolutionaries. And through it all, you're laughing at the characters, but you also see their world is falling apart. I haven't read his work in Spanish, only English, but the style is brilliant. His dialogue is fast and funny, and he writes amazing descriptions of places and people. And, it was finding Marquez's work as a teenager that really made me become a reader.
Do you feel like going out tonight?
Yeah, why not? We haven't been out for ages. What's on?
Well, there's a film about climate change. Do you like the sound of that?
Oh, not really. It doesn't really appeal to me. What's it about? Just climate change?
I think it's about how climate change affects everyday life. I wonder how they make it entertaining.
Well, it sounds really awful. It's an important subject, I agree. But I'm not in the mood for anything depressing. What else is on?
There's a flamenco festival.
Oh, I love dance. That sounds really interesting.
Apparently, it's absolutely brilliant. Let's see what it says in the paper. Ana Gomez leads in a thrilling production of the great Spanish love story Carmen.
OK, then. What time is it on?
At 7:30.
Well, that's no good. We haven't got enough time to get there. Is there anything else?
There's a comedy special on.
Where's it on?
It's at the City Theatre. It's a kind of comedy marathon for charity with lots of different acts. It looks pretty good. The critic in the local paper says it's the funniest thing he's ever seen. It says here, Roger Whitehead is absolutely hilarious as the embarrassing host to a night of comedy gold.
I'm not keen on him. He's not very funny.
Are you sure you fancy going out tonight? You're not very enthusiastic.
Perhaps you're right. OK, let's go and see the flamenco, but tomorrow, not tonight.
Great. I'll go online and book the tickets.
And this next photo is another one I really like. It's of two sisters in Brunei. They're attending a family party to celebrate a birthday.
Oh, that's a beautiful picture. The colours are gorgeous, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a big celebration. Their father's birthday, so they're wearing their best outfits.
I love all the different shades of green in the dresses. The pale green one looks fantastic with the dark scarf. Such a contrast. And it's a very peaceful photograph too.
Well, that's an interesting comment, because actually, can you see the way they are holding their hands? It's a traditional prayer.
Ah.
And it symbolises peace.
Really? And I always think that green is a very peaceful colour too. It makes me feel quite calm.
Perhaps these girls both feel the same as you. Well, this next photograph is completely different. Wait a minute. Here we are.
Do you want to do this quiz?
Oh, what's it about?
Colours and what they mean around the world.
Oh.
For example, look at this photo. Where are the women going?
I don't know. To a party?
No, they're guests at a wedding in India. The guests and the bride herself wear bright colours like these red and orange clothes.
Oh.
OK, here's your next question. Does red have different meanings in Eastern and Western cultures?
Yeah, I think it does. I always associate red with strong emotions like love or passion or anger.
That's right. And in Eastern cultures, it means luck and prosperity. Oh, and courage too, it says here. OK, next. Where does yellow symbolise wisdom?
Well, a yellow jersey means the winner of the Tour de France to me. But I don't see the connection with wisdom.
Well, there are two options. Is it China or is it India?
I think it's, India.
Let's see. Yes, you're right. It's India. It means both wisdom and knowledge in India, actually. And in China, it's a symbol of power.
Well, I didn't know that. What's the next question?
OK. Which colour means happiness in Japan? Orange or pink?
Oh, I know this. I think it's orange. It's happiness and love.
Yes, it is. Well done. Amazing. OK, the next one's about the colour blue.
Blue means cold.
True. And then there's blues music, isn't there? Can you say I feel blue in English?
Yeah, of course we can. OK, so cold, sadness. What else?
Well, the question here is, when do people wear blue in Mexico?
Mexico? I've got no idea.
Let's see. Oh, at funerals.
Oh.
It's the colour associated with death and mourning. And that's a bit sad too.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, the last one is, who uses green as their symbol? There are two options, but I'm not going to tell you them. It's too easy.
Green? Something to do with nature? Oh, yes. Environmentalists, conservationists, that sort of thing.
Of course it is. Now, here's a quiz all about the colour green. Do you want to have a go?